What's going on, everybody? I am Will the Greatest, and I am your host for the Ace Podcast, where we talk all things art, culture, and entertainment, but specifically pop culture entertainment. And sending Camp Coral to CBS All Access, I thought Nickelodeon had a deal with Netflix, or so we thought. Which that leads us directly into our second to last topic. Uh, who are my boys' names? So Michael DiMartino and Bryan Konietzko, the creators of Avatar: The Last Airbender, who were originally set to work with Netflix on the upcoming live-action series, unfortunately, will be stepping down. They both made their own independent statements about it. Let's see what they have to say live on the show. So it has a link to their post on Instagram. This is from Bryan. He says, before I get to the crux of the statement, I would like to make it clear that I am very aware and appreciative of the fact that I am in an exceedingly fortunate position and that the following issues are indeed good problems to have, even more so now that we are in the grips of a global pandemic and a cratering economy, which has left millions unemployed. With that crucial context, here is the big news from my little world. Michael DiMartino and I recently chose to leave Netflix's live-action adaptation of Avatar: The Last Airbender. The series he and I created in 2002, we will have no involvement in the project moving forward. This is probably the most difficult decision I've ever made, but there is no doubt in my mind it was absolutely the right choice. When Netflix brought me on board to run the series alongside Mike 2 years ago, they made a very public promise to support our vision. Unfortunately, there was no follow through on that promise. Though I got to work with some great individuals, both on Netflix's side and on our own small development team, the general handling of the project created what I felt was a negative and unsupportive environment. To be clear, this was not a simple matter of us not getting our way. Mike and I are collaborative people. We did not need all of the ideas to come from us. As long as we felt those ideas were in line with the spirit and integrity of Avatar, we would have happily embraced them. However, we ultimately came to that belief that we would not be able to meaningfully guide the direction of the series. Though I am profoundly disappointed by how things turned out, there are wonderfully talented people who are still working on the series, some of whom Mike and I personally hired and got to know well during our time on the project. We worked very hard together towards a shared dream of how special this adaptation could be. I want to see them employed, and I hope they get the chance to do their best work in the series. Perhaps the team that remains might still be able to make something fans of the original and an entirely new audience can enjoy. By and large, I have an incredibly charmed career, and I am very grateful for it. And I am enormously lucky for the amazing global community of fans that has grown around the shows Mike and I have created and run together. I will continue to be deeply involved in the Avatar universe, telling the stories my partner and I want to tell in the way we want to tell them. I will put my time, energy, and talent towards the projects that give me the most fulfillment and where I am offered trust and respect. Life is too short to do otherwise. Bryan Konietzko. Okay, so that's Bryan's. And then let's see what Michael DiMartino says. An open letter to Avatar: The Last Airbender fans. Many of you have been asking me for updates about the Avatar live action Netflix series. I can finally tell you that I am no longer involved with the project. In June of this year, after 2 years of development work, Bryan Konietzko and I made the difficult decision to leave the production. When Bryan and I signed onto the project in 2018, we were hired as executive producers and showrunners in a joint announcement for the series. Netflix said that it was committed to honoring our vision for this retelling and to supporting us on creating the series. And we expressed how excited we were for the opportunity to be at the helm. Unfortunately, things did not go as we had hoped. Look, things happen. Productions are challenging, unforeseen events arise, plans have to change, and when those things have happened at other points during my career, I try to be like an air nomad and adapt. I do my best to go with the flow, no matter what obstacle is put in my way, but even an air nomad knows when it's time to cut their losses and move on. I started to reevaluate what is truly important in my life and what I wanted to do with what's left of it. I took some advice from Uncle Iroh. I looked inward and started asking myself the big question: who are you and what do you want? I also sought wisdom from Stoic philosophers who were big on differentiating between what is within our control and what isn't. I realized I couldn't control the creative direction of the series, but I could control how I responded. So, I chose to leave the project. It was the hardest professional decision I've ever had to make, and certainly not one that I took lightly. But it was necessary for my happiness and creative integrity. And who knows? Netflix's live-action adaptation of Avatar has the potential to be good. It might turn out to be a show many of you end up enjoying. But what I can be certain about is that whatever version ends up on screen, it will not be what Bryan and I had envisioned or intended to make. I also want to be clear that this doesn't mean the end of my involvement in the Avatar universe. These characters and these stories and characters are important to me, and the renewed interest and excitement in Avatar and Korra has been inspiring to see. Writing this letter has left me with a very heavy heart. I know many of you will be disappointed and frustrated by this news. I get it. I share your disappointment and frustration. I also recognize this creative setback is small compared to the problems we are all facing as a society right now. Thankfully, Iroh offered some wisdom for that too. Sometimes, life is like a dark tunnel. You can't always see the light at the end of the tunnel, but if you keep moving, you will come to a better place. May we all keep moving and come to a better place. Thanks for reading and for your continued enthusiasm for the Avatar universe. With gratitude, Michael Dante DiMartino. Woo! That was loaded. So what are my thoughts on this? This is highly concerning news. Highly. I consider Avatar The Last Airbender to be one of the greatest pieces of animation in history. It is a profoundly phenomenal series that I grew up with. So it's always been a series that I respected and admired. And even as someone who is a defender of Legend of Korra, both in practice and in theory, as I have also done some cosplays of her. I love that character. She's fun. I do agree that Avatar is a damn near flawless show. Because there's like the writing team, the staff behind it, the voice talent, everything just worked out perfectly. It's such a good story. So we don't talk about the original live action movie. When the news dropped, everyone was initially apprehensive until they announced that Bryan and Michael would be returning as the showrunners and executive producers, which is like phenomenal. You're getting the original people back. This is their show. This is their vision. This is their universe. Like, if there's anything I can say, Michael and Bryan create interesting characters. Like, say what you will about Korra. It has some interesting villains for seasons 1, 3, and 4. 2's kind of lackluster, but 1, 3, and 4 are interesting. And the thing they still that show still has very good moments. The expansion of the Avatar universe, I think, is still very interesting with what they've done in the comic books and the short stories. Like, I still need to pick up that Avatar Kyoshi book because that shit looks fire. But this very much concerns me because Netflix doesn't have the most amazing track record with adaptation. My prime example being the Death Note movie, which was horrendous. That was awful. And I am glad that they did clarify that, they did handpick some of the staff that's still remaining on that project. That's good, but that's not you. That's not the original creators. And as optimistic as I want to be about the show, them deciding to leave over creative differences concerns me over what differences that Netflix wasn't willing to budge on. If it was budgetary constraints, I can understand where that could cause some friction, but I'm wondering, Avatar as a universe is such a widely diverse and philosophical realm. I'm kind of nervous on what it is that forced them to be like, this is too much. We have to step where you can do the project. You have, you have our blessing to do it, but we're not going to be involved with the final product. So just do what you want. And that makes me very nervous. Very, very nervous. And, what they've been saying about this, these were very polite, carefully worded responses, very thorough, very polite. But at the same time, I'm worried. Initially, I wasn't. Now I am. A part of me, after reading this, does honestly, it makes me not want to watch the live action show now. Because, to begin with, we didn't really need a live action adaptation of this. My only argument for it is that it's a good opportunity for a lot of minorities to get jobs. And, maybe expand upon a couple facets of the story. But I don't think there's anything you can particularly add to the storytelling of the original animation because it has the benefit of being animation. And as a result, essentially makes it a timeless show, regardless of what the setting is for it. So to see this situation unfold where the creators of such a fantastic and powerfully influential show have to publicly come out and announce that not only are they departing, it seems to be on pleasant terms, but over creative differences. The parting with the creators over creative differences is such a massive red flag to me. And I don't know. It makes me not really interested in the show now. My hope was that, you know, Netflix would do it. We'd get a solid adaptation. You can only do so much, but like a solid adaptation, we get to learn some new actors, some new minority actors, and start to make them stars. Get that for 3 seasons, go through the show, expand on some elements. What I really wanted to see is a redone live action version of Korra. I would have loved to see that. But you gotta you gotta set it up, get the first story first. Then you go in and fix that mess of a second series. I love it, but it's messy as shit. And just move things around and fix that. But yeah, now I'm worried. I'm very, very worried. Uh, I'll I will give it a try, but I'm not. My excitement has massively fallen off. It's been a little kind of extinguished as a result because it really hurts my heart to see something like this. Just to see that for the past 2 years these two men have such a passion for the world that they've created, a story that's already told, that's completed. We know how it starts, we know how it ends because it went on Netflix, and Korra's coming to Netflix too. And so for them to be like, we are willing to take time out of our lives and go back to this world that we created because we love it so much and we love what it means to people. And for whatever reason, uh, it just didn't work out as planned, and I, it makes me nervous. Um, yeah, and especially with Bryan speaking out and saying that he's disappointed how things turned out. Um, I don't know, man. I don't know. It, I am worried, especially because he pointed out that saying that Mike and I are collaborative people. We do not need all the ideas to come from us. So that means they're willing to work with other people. Avatar always seemed like a collaborative project. As long as we felt those ideas were in line with the spirit and integrity of Avatar, we would have happily embraced them. So what that indicates to me is that whatever Netflix was pushing infringes on the spirit and integrity of the show, which that show is literally like a central focal point, has to do with spirit and honor and integrity. Those are massive, like, key themes in the show. And whatever happened behind the scenes involving Netflix has me worried that it may not live up to those standards. And I don't want us to get another The Last Airbender because you refused to lean in to the themes and integrity and characterization and diversity of the original show, and that will be their downfall. So Netflix has to tread absolutely carefully going forward with however they handle this project, especially with the casting. Like, I already saw an article earlier with Joey King coming out and saying it's like, I'm not auditioning for Katara, and I would never audition for Katara. That is not my place, and that is not my role. Which I give her credit for, kind of knowing better. That's like me saying, "Oh yeah, bro, I'm a play Shang-Chi." No, that character is of that cultural background for a reason. That's one of the reasons that The Last Airbender failed the way so magnanimously as much as it did. Ah, man. Could talk about that movie for days. It's just like, it got so much wrong. And it started with like a lack of understanding of the story and how to tell it. And so for this live action series, I'm going to need you to fine tooth comb that shit. And if you can't get Bryan and Michael on, get the one of the key writers that they had. I'm sorry, I can't remember his name. I apologize to that guy, but he knows who he is. He's amazing. Show had a lot of fantastic writers, but there's a specific one. I can't remember his name. It's Bryan, Michael, and then a third guy. But yeah, honestly, I'm hoping that Netflix listens to the reception and the backlash, and they do whatever it takes to get Bryan and Michael back. Honestly, because it is killing my hopes and expectations for this series. It is making me no longer interested in seeing it. Because like, if you're not gonna go with the original creator's vision, a vision that was proven to work and that they've consistently shown that they still have interest in and talent with, they haven't fallen off yet. You know, this isn't some Ridley Scott shit. It's consistently shown that there's growth and areas of improvement. Please get them back, because if you don't show us that, your show is going to be doomed to fail and live in infamy. And we don't need another blight on the legacy of this show. So yeah, I don't have any questions, but if you do have questions, send them to our Instagram or leave a comment wherever you listen to this with the hashtag AskAce, so I can see it with your question. And let me know your thoughts about today's topics, stuff we can talk about. Oh yes, we have an Instagram now. It is at Atlas Comics Elite on Instagram. I'll say that again, at Atlas Comics Elite. Don't forget to check out our Teespring at Ace Variety. We're trying to post pop culture things, pop culture clothes, but also some other clothes, some fun clothes, some social media pop culture clothes, add a little variety to your life. But that has been me. I've been your host, Will the Greatest. Make sure to find me on my own social media. My Instagram, at Will the Greatest. My YouTube, at Will the Greatest, where I recently dropped my review of American Pie 2. I'm currently working on the American Wedding video. So please check that out. I would love you. And also, do not forget to rate the podcast 5 stars on Apple Podcast. Like it wherever you can like it. Follow us so that you can stay up to date whenever I am dropping new episodes. Trying to make this a regular thing, trying to make this a weekly thing. And next week, hopefully, we can have the boys back for a solid time. But I've been your host, Will the Greatest. Maintain some peace, love, and positivity in your life, everybody. Be good to yourselves. I will see you next week.